Okay, so today we're going to talk about CSS positioning. So as usual, I have a React app and I'm going to create a box. So this box, I'm going to call it item. So class name item and the text. This is the item. Let me check that it's being rendered. Here it is. So now I wanted to have a background color yellow. How should I do it? Do you know? So I type here background color, or how do... So I want this element here to have a background color yellow. Very well. Dot item. Yes. And now background color. Then any color. Which color would you like?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. Okay. So let's check that it works. Here it is. But now I want to add some padding and so let's say a padding of 30 pixels. Yes. And now width of 200 pixels and height 200 pixels as well. So let me check the box. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is the item. And now, as you probably are doing or about to do in Codeflix, I want to create an overlay. So I'm going to create another div, sorry, not here, inside the item. And so div, this is the overlay. And I'll give it a class name of overlay. Let's check. Yeah, it's here. So I'm going to also make some styling. Let's say dot overlay and a padding of 20 pixels, color white, and what background color? Tomato. Okay, so tomato. Check. So here is the overlay. Fine. But now we need this overlay to be at the bottom. Do you know how I can do that? There is a bottom, but in order to use it, first we need to use another property that is called position. Wait. Absolute. Now that we did this, so far I think it didn't change, so let's make bottom 0. So there it goes, but it's at the bottom of the window, right? We want it to be at the bottom of the item. So the way to do it is to make the item, so the way it's going to work is but let's make the item position relative like this, and now yes, now it's relative to the item. So now it's at the bottom, but I want it to be here on the left. You know how to. So there is another property that is called left. If I put 0, it's there on the left. So let's make it cover the whole width, right? So I'm going to do width and what else? Do you know? 100%, very well. But this is going to do something weird. Is it? Now if we inspect it, we can see that, so if we go here, we can see that, so let me just zoom it a bit. Okay, so if I don't know if you can see, let me try to zoom it a bit more. Okay, so this is the box model. So we can see this is the actual size of the element, this is the padding, the border, the margin, and yeah. So if we read, it says that is 260 pixels wide, right? Why 260? So let's check the parent, the item. So if we inspect the item is 200 pixels wide, but it also has a padding of 30 on each side. So that's why the width is 260. But if we check the overlay again, it has 260, but also it has a padding as well. So it has 20. So let's add also a border and see what happens. You know how to add a border? Border? Yes. Yes, I'll make it 15 pixels to solid red. Okay. So here is the border. So we can see that it's 260 as the parent, but the padding and the border are making it somehow overflow the width. So we can, if we go, when we are inspecting on DevTools, we can, for instance, do this, and you see, we remove that property is not being applied anymore, or the border. Okay, and now is the width of the item. But we want to have a border and padding, so we need to solve it a different way. So I'm going to show you two different approaches. So if I do right 0 as well, oops, no, wait a second, sorry, so no, I need to do something different. I need to create so basically this is called the box model, okay? So there is a property that we can set to tell how it's going to calculate the width of the box, and that property is, if I put it here, border box sizing, and then border box. So now, well, this is like this because I applied it on the item, but if I apply it on the overlay, box sizing, again, border box, it's only taking but it's still to the right. So let's see how we fix that. We don't have, I think I deleted the left property, so let's put it back. So with the left 0, it should be in the left. So now is inside the item. Any questions so far? Okay. So now I want this to be here. Any idea of how can I make that? I want the overlay to be here. It has already position absolute here. So first of all, I'm going to do that, but I want to show you something else. So now if I change the height of the item, the overlay is going to be to move as well. So it's always going to be contained into the item. So the way to move it outside is by setting the bottom to start in a negative number. So if I say, for instance, minus 150 pixels, now it's here. And what I want to do now is when I hover, so when I pass the pointer of the mouse on the overlay, I want it to move here. So there is a way to do it with CSS, that is just type in the name of the class, that is overlay, and then hover. So what this is going to do is, once we hover over this element, it's going to apply the properties that we specify inside. In this case, I want bottom to be 0, again, like before. So when I hover, you see? So this is happening because when I hover, it's moving up, right? But then once it goes up, I'm no longer hovering. So then it's going back to the original position. But then once it comes back, it's going up again. So the way to fix this problem is, I want to have the overlay is contained into the item, right? So if I hover the item, I want to make the overlay to move here. So I have to set the hover into the item instead of the overlay. So instead of overlay is item. Then instead of, so now I have to specify overlay. So this is when I hover the item, the bottom property in the overlay class is going to be 0. So if I do it now, you see? Okay. So now this is moving, but I want it to move as an animation. It's very aggressive now. So it's either here or not, here or not. I want it to slowly go to the top here. So there is another property that is called transition. And we need to specify which property to listen, bottom. So basically this is when bottom changes, make an animation of a duration of 1 second, and this is the style of the animation. Yeah. Now let's see what happens now. You see? It's much nicer, right? So right now this is moving. I'm going to show you on DevTools. If you see here on we have this tab animations. On the console, if you click, if you click on the 3 dots, you have all different things that you can, different tools. One of them is animations, and in animations we can, for instance, we can see the animation going up and the animation going down. Or if it's a really fast animation that is doing many things, we can slow it down. So now it's going to be at 10% of the speed of the original animation. So I can do either here, type 10 seconds. Let's see what happens. So, oops, I did something wrong. Space. So 10 seconds, and it's going to slowly move up, and then once I stop hovering, it's going to slowly move down. I can do that, or instead of changing the code, just using DevTools, we can do the same thing, just clicking here. Set the speed to 10%, and then if I hover, it's going to go up, and then once I release it, going down.
You know that this is the overlay box. If you try to hover the mouse inside there now, rather than going into the items.
Here.
Yeah. It still moves slowly.
It's going to only work once I'm on the overlay. Up, it's working now. That's weird. So let's do it again. It's working, but not completely.
How is it doing that? Because I thought we needed to click inside the yellow box.
Yes, because we are targeting the yellow box with the hover. So if we go, let me just check the code. We're targeting the item, but also the overlay. So because I want to change the property on the overlay, I have to do it this way. So if I go, yeah. But on the code, we are only applying it to hover. So we want to apply it on hover, on item, because otherwise it will only work when we are hovering here. You see? Okay, so what else? So let's see. There's another cool thing here. If we check the transition, so this is the item, so we need to go to the overlay. If we check the transition here, and we click here, this is basically how the animation is going to accelerate and decelerate. So we have many options. So we can do, for instance, we have this one, we can do this one, so let's check it. Let's make it a bit faster before. Yeah. So we click back here. Let's see this one. It's going to It's basically the acceleration of it. So we can also modify it by clicking here. We can do this. So now it's going to go up and then down. So this is a really nice tool. So then we copy this, we put it on the code, we can replicate that behavior. So yeah, let's do that. Instead of is, we just do this, and now we hover, you see, it's like jumping. Okay, so now what I want is, I don't want it to be visible when it's outside of the item. I only want it to be visible inside the item. Do you have any idea on how to do that?
Can you set the visible to false?
Visible to false. The idea is right, but the way to do it is, there is a property called overflow, that has, so let's do it, overflow. So we want to apply it on the item, and overflow, yes, hidden. So basically it's everything that is outside is not going to be visible. So you see, it's not there. So we scroll here, you can see that it's there, but it's not visible, it's hidden. So if we scroll now, you see? So this is useful, for instance, on the Codeflix. Imagine this is the cover of your film, and this is the title. So then when you scroll, you have the title. Any questions? Yes. So basically, we need the positioning should be absolute on the overlay and relative on the item to be able to be inside. And then I changed the bottom to be lower than what it should be, and then I created on hover, I made it move up, and in order to be smooth, I created an animation, a transition that is basically checking when this property changes. I want it to change in 1 second, and I want the transition to be according this function, according this formula. Yeah, basically that's it. Unless you want any, do you have any question? Anything you don't understand?
Just one last silly point really, but is it possible to put an overlay within an overlay? So like for instance, you have an overlay which comes up with the tomato colour, and then after that you want it to have like the text coming afterwards.
So an overlay inside an overlay. So you mean that you have an overlay, and then once you hover inside that overlay, another overlay comes up?
Yeah.
We can try to do something like that and see.
You know, like one
if you want.
overlay is the box, the background, and the next overlay would be the text that filled in. I don't know why you want to do that, but I'm just saying is it possible?
I think so. That's right. So you want one thing the box and another thing the text, right? So right. So this is the text, and now let's call it class name text or overlay text. Okay, so yeah. And now we need to make this overlay text. So when we hover on it, so basically when we hover on the overlay, I'm not sure if it's going to work. So we hover on the overlay to move the text, right? So then we need to set a position for the overlay dot for the text. So that overlay text, and then position absolute, and let's make it. Let's see what I have on the screen. It's not being rendered. That's weird. Oh, it's not being rendered because it's hidden, right? So now we want that when we hover on the overlay, what do you want the text to do?
Just
Appear? So it, okay. So overlay, hover, and then opacity to 1, and then we have to make it default to 0. So opacity 0. Oops. Yeah. I think it's not working. Wait a second. Or let's try to, for instance, move it. See if that makes. So let's say it's in bottom 0. Then we want to move it to bottom 100 pixels. I think the hover is not working. Yeah, the hover is not being triggered. Yeah. So maybe we can't do that. Let me try overlay text, maybe that way. Yeah, overlay text, we can do that. I think we can't do that because this overlay is more specific than the other one I was doing here, because this is inside this one, so that's why it's not being applied. So maybe if but the thing is, I might break the other hover, and I'll do one last try, and then I'll leave it. So let's say overlay. Let's make it an ID instead of ID. So IDs are more specific. So let's say overlay. No, another name. Overlay ID. Now, if I do overlay ID over, let's see. No, it's not working. So I can't have more than one overlay on one element. Oh, no, wait. Because the overlay ID So overlay I did hover and then overlay text. Maybe no. Let's see. Nope. No, I can't. I can only do it on the text. It was a nice experiment. Yeah, if I do it like this, there it is. What if, yeah, let's play a bit with this. So overlay text, let's make it a background color, I don't know, the colors are weird, but just to see it moving. Yeah, there it is. So now I'm going to make a transition. So let's make a transition. How do I make the transition? Do you remember? So now we need to put the name of the property that we are listening is the bottom. So then when bottom changes, it's going to trigger the animation. Bottom, and now 1 second, and is okay. That's it. Yeah, because it's only when I'm hovering the overlay. Yeah. Yeah. Probably there's ways around this. We are just playing. It's probably a more professional way of doing it. But it was a nice experiment. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So I'll leave it here. Thank you.